Facebook, how you doing out there? I'm Ken Coleman, he is Simon Sinek, and we're coming to you from the Summit 2017 live stage. Yes, wow. Yeah, and I got to brag on some of our amazing attendees. They're a great organization. I think it's the best coffee in America. Dutch Bros are here. Those are a large portion of the people that are just going nuts. Started in the Northwest, the great state of Oregon, and a great organization. So Simon just came off the big stage, 1,500 plus leaders, and did something really fun. You gave a bit of a talk, but then you said, all right, free for all. Ask any question that you want, and that was really fun. Before I get into some of my questions, why do you do that?
It's fun for me because I get to think.
Yeah.
You know, when I give a talk that I've given a bunch of times, you know, I know what I'm going to say, and it's hard to be present when you do it so much.
Right.
And so, plus I want to learn too. I don't want to just show up to give. I also want to learn. And so, there's nothing more exhilarating than being asked a question I've never been asked and being asked a difficult question, because then I get to actually think and I get to learn. So that I try and do it as often as possible.
Yeah, it was really fun. All right, so I've had you on our EntreLeadership podcast a couple times, and the last time you were on, I said, what are you working on? What are you excited about? And you said, well, just wrapped a book, Better Together, and I'm really excited about it. You kind of gave us a summary. Since that time, it's come out, and so I want to spend a little bit of our time just asking you to describe to our Facebook audience, what is that book if they've not heard about it? It made bestseller status, but what is the book and why? Why that title?
Together is Better.
Together, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I butchered it. Sorry, it's been a long day.
It's okay. It's fine. That's fine. Together is Better it's a sweet little book. I absolutely love it. I produced this book to be a gift. You know, I realized in my own career that I didn't get here alone. Like I'm a bit player in all the people in my life, some of whom I know and some of whom I don't. People who took risks on me, people who took bets on me, people who recommended me, people who told their friends about maybe some of my work. That has given my work a voice. And so it was a little thing that I put together to say thank you. It's a little recognition that it together really is better. And I wanted it to be a gift for other people as well. So the very first page in the book says to and from. And it's intended to be given as a gift to someone you want to inspire, or to say thank you to someone who inspires you. And it's a sweet little allegory. It's a sweet little story of these archetypes, these three children who live on a playground, who play on a playground, and there's a bully. And they envision a place that's better than the place they live in now, like so many of us think of a better job or starting a business, and they have to go on an adventure. And they come across a lot of obstacles, and they learn the hard way that the only way they're going to achieve their dream is if they help each other out.
Yeah, I love that. You know, Zig Ziglar once famously said, it's one of my favorite things he said, if you spend all your time helping other people get what they want, you'll get what you want. And that really is true. It's a great theme there. What else were you trying to drive home? Is there a spirit of collaboration there too? Just at the end of the day, if multiple minds get together and they work on something, there really is an opportunity to do something truly legendary, brilliant work.
Yeah, I mean, we only know what we know, and we know this much. And so, you know, there's been plenty of work about this. You know, The Wisdom of Crowds is a great example. This book, The Wisdom of Crowds, where James Surowiecki shows us that we are smarter as teams. We're better problem solvers, and this is why teaming and leadership is so important. Because when you have a good team, then we actually are smarter. And good teams with good leadership, trust, cooperation, problem solving, thrive. When you have poor leadership and you have a dysfunctional team, cynicism, paranoia, mistrust, and self-interest prevail, which ultimately makes us dumber. You know, and so there is something to be said for recognition that I am better because of you, not in spite of you.
Yes, it's true. Now, you said something today that I love. Now, I'm a history geek, so for those of you who don't love history as much as me, there's a qualifier. But you said something in your question and answer time. You talked about the Declaration of Independence. I don't want to paraphrase, but I want to set you up to talk about why you said this document is so amazing, and it wasn't just a patriotic statement. What were you teaching there?
So people are always talking about visions and missions and all of this stuff. When people ask me, like, what example should I look to? Like, what company should I? I'm like, here's an organization with a vision, a cause. It was founded with a cause. It's an entrepreneurial venture. America is an experiment. It's an entrepreneurial venture where a bunch of people got together and decided we needed to start our own country. because there were certain obstacles that were getting in the way of a vision that we had of a better kind of country, better kind of company, right? And they stated it right out of the beginning. All men are created equal, endowed with these unalienable rights, amongst which include life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And it's not just a competitive statement, like to be the best, to be the most respected. That's not what it was. And I'm amazed how many companies start their visions or missions with that terribly egocentric language. It was an ideal. And the amazing thing is we've been good at it and bad at it in our history, but it's endured for 240 plus years because we fundamentally believe that we are at our best when we're pursuing that. But it is an ideal. We will never actually achieve all people are equal, but we will die trying. And that's the point. And it's the same for a company, which is true vision inside a company, is something that has nothing to do with your product. It is an ideal to which you will attempt to build and advance that ideal through your company with your product. You'll never achieve the ideal, but you'll die trying. And this is what gives our work meaning. This is what gives our lives purpose, right? The difference between vision and a goal is the finish line. A goal is 26.2 miles. You can simply count the metrics and know when you've completed your goal. A vision is having a crystal clear sense of what the finish line looks like, but no idea of how far away it is.
Wow.
And the reality is you will spend your entire life never actually crossing the finish line, but the joy that every marathon you complete, you feel like you're getting closer. Every milestone that you accomplish makes you feel like you're getting closer and closer to the ideal, and this is what gives our life and our work meaning.
I want to stay here for a second because we were just talking about together is better, and then I kind of switched over with that question, but I think of the Founding Fathers. I was just in Philadelphia for an event literally 3 weeks ago, and I stood in Independence Hall. And I imagine Jefferson here, Washington at the big chair, sitting, kind of presiding over the Constitutional Convention and all this. And you had all these, James Madison, brilliant minds in this one room. And you probably know this, but it was a long process that led to the Declaration of Independence and then the first Constitution and then the Bill of Rights and all that. And there's something too, when something matters that big and it's stood the test of time, there was a bunch of different opinions and men coming together to somehow agree on a loose document that really has stood the test of time.
Well, I think that the brilliant thing about the history is just what you're saying, which it wasn't all roses.
No.
And some of those folks hated each other. I mean, Jefferson and Hamilton hated each other.
That's right. And Adams until late in their life.
Right. I mean, and so it wasn't like they all like big chums. But what this is, I think this is a good reminder for us, which is we don't have to agree with people on our team as long as we share the vision, as long as we share the cause, as long as we're devoted to something bigger than us, we can actually find common ground, which doesn't mean consensus and it doesn't mean dilution.
That's a great point.
It means common ground that we can, and it always boils down to invoking the cause. And when they invoke the cause, they can find common ground. That's my favorite thing about the Founding Fathers, which is they didn't necessarily get along, but they produced some documents and some ideals that we live by to this day.
Wow, that's so rich. All right, so the question I always love to ask you, what are you stewing about, thinking about, dreaming about, without giving away any secrets? We're not looking for that, but what's beating on your chest pretty hard?
I've become completely fascinated by game theory.
As in like gaming?
No, not gaming. No, it's mathematical concepts of game theory.
Gotcha.
And I'm actually writing a book about it. So actually, every time I talk to you, I'm writing a book.
I know nothing about math, which is clearly why
I don't either. I don't either.
So where are you going with that?
I'll give you the quickie idea behind it. The book's called The Infinite Game, but this is what it's about. So in game theory, there's two types of games. There's finite games and there's infinite games. A finite game is defined as known players, fixed rules, and an agreed upon objective. Baseball. Right? We agree what the rules are, we all agree whoever has more runs at the end of the game is the winner and we all go home. Right? Then you have an infinite game. An infinite game is defined as known and unknown players. The rules are changeable, and the objective is to keep the game in play, to perpetuate the game. When you pit a finite player versus a finite player, the system is stable. Baseball is stable. When you pit an infinite player versus an infinite player, the system is also stable. The Cold War was stable because we cannot have a winner or a loser, right? The game just has to keep going. And because there are no winners or losers in an infinite game, what ends up happening is players drop out when they run out of the will or the resources to play. Problems arise when you pit a finite player versus an infinite player, because a finite player is playing to win and an infinite player is playing to stay in the game. So think about business. The game of business obeys all the rules of the infinite game, right? The game of business has pre-existed every single company on the planet today, and it will outlast every single company on the planet today. You don't win the game of business. There are no agreed upon rules or time frames. But if you listen to the language of most businesses, they don't know the game they're in. They're talking about being number one, beating their competition, winning based on what agreed upon objectives, based on what agreed upon time frame. Anybody can beat anybody and win anything if you make your own standards. In other words, you don't know the game you're in. And if you're playing by solely finite rules in an infinite contest, you will eventually fall out of the game because you will run out of the will or the resources to play. Every single bankruptcy is somebody that has run out of the will or the resources to play. You will fall out, the game will perpetuate, and a new player will replace you. A new company will emerge. Most mergers and acquisitions are when at least two companies are saying, we no longer have the will or the resources to compete alone, we have to merge with another company. In other words, most companies actually have no clue how to run business. They're playing the wrong rules. And the companies that frustrate their competition, Costco frustrates Walmart, Southwest frustrates everybody, right? They're accidentally playing the infinite game because they're not playing for a year or 2 years, they're playing for 50 and 100. And that's how they make decisions and that's how they set their strategies. Infinite players aren't playing to beat their competitions. Infinite players are competing against themselves.
Wow. Is that not phenomenal? That's the next bestseller. There it is, a summary from Simon Sinek, a dear friend of us. He did a wonderful job here on the Summit stage. Hey, thanks for being with us.
My pleasure.
Here.
Thanks for having me.
All right, folks, thank you for tuning in. And as I've been telling you, we're going to continue to bring you great content from our Facebook Live stage. Thank you so much for being with us. Stay tuned here on Facebook. More stuff coming your way.